Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to the stream today. We've got a really big topic for today. We're going to be talking about 3 different tenses that you can make in Korean using one form. So we're going to start out with a very simple form, and that is the present tense. Okay, so present tense is just like I do, I am, he, she, whatever is. Just something currently in the present. You might already know the form like 해요, 합니다. That's all just present tense. So you can make the present tense using the form koshida. And this is what we're going to be talking about for all 3 tenses today. So to make the present tense with the form koshida, you just take an adjective and you conjugate it to the present tense, which is the regular adjective form. If you already know how to do that, that's great. If you don't, well, that's the one that's going to end with like un or nun or a nian, depending on if it's a descriptive verb or an action verb. Like an action verb like 하다, to do, you would get 하는. All the action verbs in the present tense will end with nun. But if you're talking about descriptive verbs, those would either end with nian or un, depending on the verb. For example, koshida is simply 것, meaning thing, and ida, meaning to be. So you're saying it is a thing that is whatever adjective. Now, you're going to conjugate ida also, like kosh입니다 or 것이에요, because you're just conjugating ida at the end. Or 거 instead of 것. 거 is the same thing. So instead of kosh입니다, you can have 거읍니다, so 겁니다, or 예요, since it ends with a vowel. So you can have like 겁니다, 거예요, like that. There are a lot of things you can do with this though. What if you're using casual speech? You can either have like koshia, or if it ends in a vowel, you just do koya. So koshia, koya. Or what if you wanted to use the form like the day form? 것인데, 것인데. Or if you're using 거, it's just 건데, 건데. You could also do other forms attached to ida. 것이지만 or 거지만. So you have a lot of options. It's up to you. Use your imagination. So, between 것 and 거, these have the same meaning. If you're writing an essay for TOPIK, use 것. But if you're talking with someone, I recommend using 거. It's going to be much more common. This one has more of a spoken feel. So, remember though, action verbs will end with 는 when they're in the present tense as an adjective. So, 하다, to do, well, you get 하는. So if we were to use our form, you can get 하는 거예요 or 하는 거야, for example. 하는 거야. So once you've gotten this far, now you have the present tense. You might be familiar already with like 해요, like I do something. 공부해요, 이해요. This is also present tense. You can use this form, koshida, to make the present tense with either descriptive verbs or action verbs. If you use it with a descriptive verb, the meaning you get is, again, 것이다, to be a thing. To be not just a thing, but like a noun. So it could also be a person, but it's something, someone. So to be something or someone. So when you use a descriptive verb as an adjective with koshida, what you are saying is something, whatever you're describing, is a thing or a person that is whatever it is. So if we were to say, for example, like 피곤하다, to be tired. So 피곤하다 as an adjective in the present tense is just 피곤한. So you could say 피곤한 and then 것이다, we can make it 거야 or 거예요. 피곤한 거예요 means someone is a thing. In this case, it's a person. So it's going to be someone is someone who is 피곤하다. Tired is the literal meaning that you get. So you could say 피곤해요. I am tired. Or you could say 피곤한 거예요. I am a person who is tired. Literally, that's what you mean. These are both present tense. Or if we were to use this with an action verb, instead of saying to be a thing or person that is, we would get to be a person or thing that does, whatever action goes here. For example, if the action we're doing is 가다, to go, you could say 저는 가요. I am going, I go. Or 가는 거예요. I am a person who goes. Literally, that is all that it means. So the main topic of today is, how is 제가 해요? Or even just how is 해요 different than 하는 거예요? Both of these are present tense, but these have a different nuance. When you use this koshida form for present tense, again, you are saying something or someone is a thing or person that is or that does, whatever. What you're doing is describing something or someone. By describing something, you're kind of emphasizing the subject. Why? Because, again, this form sounds like you're describing something. You're not simply saying, I study Korean. When you say, 오늘 한국어 공부해요, I'm studying Korean. When you're saying that, you're just saying an action that you're doing. I am studying Korean, the end. When you are using this form, it sounds like you are describing the subject. For example, 저는 한국어 공부해요, like I'm studying Korean. Now it sounds like 공부하는 거예요. I am someone who is studying Korean. The nuance of using the koshida form adds a little bit of emphasis on the subject because all it's doing is describing the person or thing that you're talking about. It sounds more like you're explaining something or describing it. Another way you can think of this is maybe saying like, you see, I'm just going to tell you something. I'm going to describe something for it. I'm going to explain something. That's kind of the nuance it has a little bit over the regular form. Or perhaps like, that's why. Or even the thing is, and then talk about it. So while it doesn't mean this, kind of has the nuance of saying like, well, you see, or well, the thing is, I'm studying Korean right now versus I am studying Korean. Again, this is not a huge change. So don't say Billy told me that this form means, well, that's why. It does not have that meaning. It has a little bit of that nuance. Because you are describing the subject, it adds the nuance of, well, like, why are you describing him in the first place? Well, the reason is because I'm going to tell you something. You see, I'm just describing them by letting you know more information, kind of like giving some explanation for something. So when might you want to use koshida over the standard present tense form? Well, I just told you, maybe you're describing something or you're explaining something, but when you're making a sentence that has explanation, often, though it doesn't have to, but it often will come with a reason. Sentences using koshida naturally tend to come together with sentences that are explaining the reason for something. In shorter terms, they get used with because forms often. Like, why are you doing your homework at 3 a.m? Well, you see, I got a really difficult test, so that's why I have to study. And if you're using this form in context where there's no reason to suddenly say this sort of nuance, then this form will actually sound unnatural. If you are simply saying something that happened, you do not need this form. So, if that form adds a little bit of nuance, what does this form do? Well, it doesn't sound like you're explaining something. So it's plain. If anything, this form adds a little bit of emphasis to the verb. So if you want to talk about the subject, use 는 거예요 or 는 것이다. If you want to talk more about the verb, you just use the standard form. And if you don't know the difference between those, then my recommendation is just use the regular form. And then when you know better, you're still just going to be using this for most sentences because this one works fine. So let me do another example sentence. 기다리고 있어요. I am waiting versus 기다리고 있는 거예요. I am waiting. So here, 있다 becomes 있는. So both the same sentence, but the second one, 기다리고 있는 거예요. It's like saying, not just like I'm waiting, but like, hey, what am I doing? Well, I'm waiting. 왜 지금 가요? Why are you going now? You can answer this question in a variety of ways. It's common to use the koshida form when you're answering a question. Here's one way you can answer. 지금 약속이 있어서 because I have an appointment now, 가는 거예요. I'm going. You see, well, the thing is, I'm going now because sounds very natural. So you're describing, you're like, you see, well, I got to go now because I have an appointment. So it doesn't have to be, but it tends to get used a lot in sentences where you are describing something, like explaining something, and that comes with a reason. In this case, because I have an appointment. You could reply with 내일은, so tomorrow, 친구가, my friend is 가는 거예요. Well, you see, my friend is going tomorrow. 내일은 친구가 가는 거예요. There's one more thing about this form that I have to talk about. This form still literally means to be something or someone that is whatever we put before it. So there are many cases where you can use this form for its literal meaning. So a book is 읽다 is to read. So 읽는 거예요. So a book is a thing that you read. 책은 읽는 거예요. A book is something that you read. You're not saying like the book is reading. So keep an eye out. This is a form that can be used in two different ways. I'm going to give you another example. 이것도. So this thing also 제가 좋아하는 거예요. So this thing is also something that I like. This thing is also something I like. This is also something I like. 이것도 제가 좋아하는 거예요. Or 이것도 제가 좋아하는 거예요. This also, well, you see, I like it. You could end the sentence two ways. 이건, so 이것은. This thing is 원래, normally or originally. So this is normally 어려워요. It's normally difficult. Or 어려운 거예요. So it is difficult normally, you see. Or this also could mean 이건 원래, this is normally 어려운 거. Something that is difficult. This is normally something that is difficult. And this is normally something that's difficult. 이건 원래 어려운 거예요. One more thing. These two sentences both mean what are you doing? 뭐 해요? 뭐 하는 거예요? So again, 뭐 해요? Literally just what are you doing? 뭐 하는 거예요? Like what is it that you are doing? So this kind of describes the person. So hey, I'm talking about you. What are you doing? Hey you, what are you doing? This one has more of like an explain yourself kind of feel. If someone's trying to give off that kind of rude vibe, they're going to pick this one because it kind of implies like, hey, explain yourself. What is it that you're doing? Versus just, what are you doing? Our next form we're going to talk about is the future tense koshida form. This is the regular form you use for making the future tense. You know, the one that ends with like this. But instead of taking an adjective in the present tense form, now you use the future tense adjective form. Yippee! Which ends with this or this. And it doesn't matter if it's an action verb or a descriptive verb. These are the only two options for future tense. So whoever is doing something is a thing or a person who will do or will be adjective. This could become like 할 거예요, 할 거야, 할 겁니다, or 할 거지만, 할 건데. Everything's the exact same with how it can conjugate. So how is 제가 하겠습니다 different from saying 제가 할 거예요? In this case, this form is preferred in pretty much all cases to say someone will do something. 하겠습니다, or any form using this 했다 ending, when it's used as the future tense and not being used to say like could be or would be or must be, when it's used as the future tense is most often used with formal speech. So 하겠습니다 is the most common way you're going to see this used if it's the future tense. And it shows a little bit more determination, like I shall do it, I will do it. So when it comes to the future tense, you don't have to worry about the nuance difference between using the koshida form and using the other future tense form, because this is the only one that gets used for regular speech. So I'm not going to bother with any sentences for it, but if you would like a couple example sentences, make sure to get the outline as well as the worksheet for this lesson. There is a past tense version of this form as well. Now you make the past tense adjective form and you attach koshida. For example, 하다 would become 한 거예요, or 한 거야, or 한 건데, 한 거지만. Exactly the same as before. The only thing that's changing is your conjugation of the adjective. Again, to be a thing or a person that was, if it's a descriptive verb, or did something, if it's an action verb. For example, 제가 했어요, I did it, versus 제가 한 거예요. It also could literally mean it is something that I did. 아, 그것도 제가 한 거예요. That is also something that I did. So it adds explanation. The thing is, well, I did it. It has that feeling to it. Now, for this one, I am going to give a couple example sentences. 어제, yesterday, 늦게, late, 잤어요. I slept late yesterday. 어제 늦게 잔 거예요. This is not going to be the most natural sentence you can make. We can make this more natural, however, if we add in some sort of reason why you're explaining yourself. Maybe we could say something like this. 어제 너무 피곤해서 because I was so tired yesterday or too tired yesterday, 늦게 잔 거예요. I slept late. You see, I slept late because I was so tired yesterday. Now you have a very natural sentence. Now there's a reason to add an explanation to your sentence. You're not just saying, you see, I slept late yesterday, but now you're saying, well, you see, I was so tired yesterday that I slept late. 지하철 놓쳤어요. 놓치다 is to miss. So, 지하철 놓쳤어요. I missed the subway. 늦게 나와서, because I came out of the house late, 지하철을 놓친 거예요. I am someone who missed the subway, literally, because I came out late. So you see, I missed the subway because I came out late. 늦게 나와서 지하철을 놓친 거예요. And that is our lesson. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!